Welcome to Vegetable Starters and Salads. Today we're going to explore a number of different recipes utilizing the grill to create great starters and salads. But before we get to that, we're going to talk a little bit about charcoal. You can see here I've got a beautiful bed of white coals. And how we got there, I'm going to walk you through step by step. So the first thing we do is we take a cylindrical device called a chimney, and we fill that with charcoal. The chimney is a cylinder, it's perforated, it's got a little cage about a third of the way up, so there's an air gap on the bottom. We put paper in that air gap, fill the chimney with charcoal briquettes, and we light that paper on fire. The paper then ignites the chimney from the bottom. As the heat rises up, it continues to get the airflow from the perforations in the cylinder. Eventually, all that charcoal becomes lit, and then we take that charcoal, we put it in the bed of our grill, and we add more charcoal to that to get a nice bed of coals. And we wait until they're all white. We don't want to see much black in there at all, if any. And by doing that, we're going to avoid any flame-up issues or flare-ups, which we really don't want while we're grilling. So let's look at our first recipe. We're going to be taking a look at a salad of endive, which is a member of the chicory family. And we're going to take some pancetta, and we're going to wrap pancetta around the endive. So what better way to get people to eat more vegetables than to wrap it in tasty pork products? So the first thing I'm going to do is cut the endive in half, and then I'm going to shave the core out of there, because that's not really very appealing to eat. And I'm doing a mix of both red and white endive. So the white here, and you can see a little browning on the edge of the leaves here. That's because endive is very sensitive to light, and it oxidizes. So we'll just take those outer leaves off. Again, shave the core. And then we're going to take some pancetta. Pancetta is a pork product. It's essentially pork belly that hasn't been smoked. So that's what differentiates it from bacon. Bacon is pork belly that's cured with salt and smoked. Pancetta is just cured and not smoked. So I'm going to take a few pieces here. They roll this up so it's there's some longer pieces, and I'm going to roll these around the pancetta just to cover it gently. And it kind of sticks together. It's nice and fatty. So it's almost like it glues itself on here. And it takes 5 or 6 slices to really encapsulate the endive. So you can see that. And I'm going to press this down, just kind of form that pancetta on there. And then if you take a look over here, I have some that are already done. I'm going to brush these liberally with a little bit of oil. The oil's going to do 2 things. It's going to help keep it from sticking on the grill. It's also going to act as a conductor of heat. So oil conducts heat really, really effectively. And we want that high heat to render that bacon, that pancetta down and make it crispy. So I'll also just brush a little oil on the back side of it here as well, so that when I flip those over, I'll have that same aid in cooking those. Next, we're going to look at some potatoes. So I have some fingerling potatoes here that we've steamed off, and I've cut these in half. I'm going to cut these in half, and I'm cutting them in half so that the widest area of surface is open on the flat side. And then what I'm going to do is lay these down on the grill like this, or on the cutting board rather, and I'm going to take my skewer and I'm going to gently run the skewer while I'm twisting through the potatoes. And what this does is gives me a perfectly flat surface. Whoops, I got 3 of them. A perfectly flat surface when I go onto the grill here, so that I get nice even grill marks and nice even caramelization. We want to take advantage of that charcoal fire there, picking up the flavors from the charcoal, picking up the flavors from the smoke, and really developing some caramelization and Maillard reaction on those items. So the next thing we're going to look at here is our salad dressing. So first of all, we have beautiful tomatoes concassé. Concassé is a process where we take the tomato, we take the skin off, we take the seeds out, and we're left with just the beautiful pulp of the tomato. So I've taken the tomato, cut the core out, blanched this in boiling water, and then immediately taken it out when I see the skin start to split, move it over into ice water, and it shocks it, stops the cooking process. By doing that, I make it very, very easy to peel this tomato. So literally the skin just falls right off. So you can see how easily that comes off of there. These are beautiful heirloom tomatoes. Really exciting this time of year as a chef to go to the store and see these great products. So now I've cut this in half laterally. I'm going to squeeze the seeds out. Some of the juice comes out as well, but we're really kind of just cherry picking the best part of the tomato here. And then I'm going to just dice this up. So I'm going to cut through this way. And then I'm going to just use the tip of my knife and kind of draw it through, trying to keep this intact if I can. There we go. And then just a nice uniform small dice on the tomatoes. This is going to be an ingredient in a vinaigrette, so we want some uniformity there. And then I'm going to put those into my bowl here. Next ingredient that's going to go in here, we have some garlic and shallots. We want a little aromatic backbone here. So a trick I learned to cutting garlic is to take the cloves and I use the back of my knife, and I bring the back of my knife to the edge of the board and just crush it. And we probably, for that much tomato, only really need 1 clove of garlic. So I'm just gonna, by crushing it, I basically saved myself a couple of minutes of mincing time. Let's just take a look at our endive over here. So this should come up easily, which it does. We're just gonna rotate this 90 degrees, get nice even cooking, even grill marks. Same with our potatoes. And I'm pressing down on there so I get nice contact, nice caramelization, nice flavor development. Now back to the garlic. I can chop this up to a very fine paste in a matter of seconds now after crushing it. I'll scrape the edge of my knife, get the larger pieces that ride up the edge of my knife back into the mix here. So then in a matter of just a few seconds, I've got nicely minced garlic. That goes into my bowl. Shallots, again, looking for some uniformity, so I want a nice cut on the shallots. So what I'm going to do is just cut through several layers here at about 1/8 of an inch increments, almost all the way through the shallot, keeping it intact. Then I'll go and do the same down through the shallot. At this point, get any of these irregular pieces out of my way. And then I can come and make really nice uniform cuts by cutting through those 2 lateral slices. So really nice, delicate, uniform shapes. With a dressing like this, you don't want big chunks of aromatic things that are going to release big, bold flavors in large quantities. So we'll just move this in there. Now we're going to add some fresh lemon juice to this. So I've got a lemon half wrapped in cheesecloth here to keep the seeds in, because we don't want seeds in our vinaigrette. So a combination of the acid from the tomatoes and the acid from the salad, or from the oil rather, is going to give us our vinaigrette here. So get some nice fruity extra virgin olive oil. Just mix this up, let those flavors kind of steep together. Back over and take a look at our salad components. So the endive's starting to get some color there, crisping up a little bit. Now, our last component in this dish is a salad of fresh parsley leaves. So parsley, this is Italian parsley. So I've taken the stems off. I have just the whole nice leaves here. And I'm just going to simply dress this with a little bit of extra virgin olive oil and some salt and pepper. I'm just going to gently toss that around. I want the olive oil to coat the parsley leaves so they get a nice shine to them. Also, that adds an acidic flavor and also that fruity element of olive oil to it. So, and just enough to really wet the parsley leaves. So at this point, I'm ready to plate. So I'm going to take couple of pieces of potato. Lay these down. So the potatoes already cooked, so we're just trying to warm them up gently on the grill, get some of that smoke flavor. Endive. It's nice and tender now. The bacon's crispy on the top there. Just gonna arrange that artfully. Parsley salad. I'm gonna just offset this a little bit. I want a little bit of it on the salad, but I want it kind of spilling off to fill up the other side of the plate. So just really fresh, delicate garnish, but also adding a vegetative component to it as well. So just want that to stack up there nicely. And then we're just gonna garnish this with some really great Reggiano Parmesan. So my favorite Parmesan cheese. And just on the parsley salad itself. And there you have our grilled endive with pancetta, grilled potatoes, parsley salad, and then, of course, the tomato vinaigrette rounds out the whole dish. Just gonna spoon this around and over the top, kind of randomly, which in order, ironically, to make something look random, you have to place it fairly precisely. And there you have it. Next, we're going to look at a not-so-traditional version of Caesar salad. I'm going to start off by putting this lemon on the grill, which is something you wouldn't necessarily think of doing. What I want to do is really get some caramelization to this and develop some flavor. So I'm going to cut it in half. I'm going to oil it a little bit because, again, that oil is going to help me to get that heat conductivity in there because it's mostly water on the surface. I don't want it to steam. I want it to caramelize and brown. So a little oil, and I'm going to find the hot spot on my grill. I'm going to just use my hand to sort of wave over this and feel for hot spots. I want a spot where I'm really not comfortable holding my hand there for very long, and it looks like that's our spot right there. So that's what you want to hear, that sizzle. So that's the water shooting out of there, boiling on the surface right away, so that's a really good sound. That's what we want to hear. Next, let's talk about our lettuce. So this is what we call a little gem. Little gem is a cross between a romaine lettuce and a butter lettuce type. They grow in beautiful little heads like this, and they're one of my favorites because they're a perfect size portion for an individual head to be a salad. So I've got some sort of outer wilty leaves here, which I'm just going to peel off and get right to the heart of this guy. Just discard those. And then I'm going to split this right down the center. So you can see I've got the beautiful, tender, kind of yellow leaves on the inside, and I've got this core piece here, much like our endive. I want to get rid of that. That's not very palatable, but I want this to stay together in one piece. So I'm just going to shave the core off and leave this intact so it holds the leaves together. Same thing with this guy. I'm going to brush these with a little oil. Again, same idea, utilizing for both flavor and heat conductivity. And then I'm going to season them with a little bit of salt and pepper as well, just to get that flavor development started. I'm going to be careful not to do too much salt here. We don't want to fill up these little crevices with a bunch of salt, but we do want to get some flavors started in there. So I'm going to move these over to the grill now. Again, same idea. I want that hot spot, so I'm going to put these right next to the lemons there. And I don't really want to cook the lettuce. I just want to wilt it slightly. So I want to get a little bit of color, maybe a little char on the outer leaves, but still have it crunchy in the core. Next, I've got some bread. I'm just going to lightly butter the bread, and then it's going to go on the grill as well. I'll put that in a slightly cooler spot because we don't want to burn that. We just want a little toast on it, maybe a tiny bit of char. And I think 3 of those guys should be plenty. So while that's cooking, we're going to move over here, clean up a little, and we're going to take a look at our dressing. So making Caesar dressing can be a little bit of a daunting task to some. Utilizing egg yolks, issues with health concerns over product quality and safety and sanitation. So I have a sort of easy version of making a Caesar dressing here. So I'm starting off with some commercial mayonnaise. If you're ambitious enough, you can make your own mayonnaise. I'm adding to that some chopped garlic, about a half a teaspoon of chopped garlic for a little over a cup of mayonnaise. A little bit more, maybe a teaspoon of Dijon mustard added to that. And I have some anchovy paste here. I'm going to add about a teaspoon of the anchovy paste. Now I've got a little red wine vinegar here. I'm just going to put a few drops of red wine vinegar in there for our acid component. And then coming back over to the grill here, we're going to take a look at these lemons. And I know they're not quite ready yet. See, just starting to get a little bit of color there. So I'm going to allow those to continue cooking. I'm going to move my lettuce so I get more of an even cooking process. I'm just going to take a look at the bread. Probably move that to a little bit hotter spot. So since that lemon's not done, I knew it wouldn't be done in the time that I had. So I took the liberty of making one earlier. And you can see the nice caramelization there. So you start to dry out the fruit, you concentrate the juice, and you're also picking up that flavor from the smoke and the caramelization that occurs from the natural sugars in the lemon. So I've wrapped half of that lemon in cheesecloth here to hold the seeds in. I'm just going to squeeze that nice caramelized smoky lemon juice into my Caesar dressing. Add a little salt and pepper to this. And then I'm just going to mix this up. So really kind of quick, simple way to make a Caesar dressing. All the components are here. So you've got really big flavors there. You've got Dijon mustard, you've got lemon, you've got garlic, you've got anchovy. And in a properly made Caesar dressing, you should have a harmony of those flavors. Nothing should stand out. Nothing should be the star of the show. You should just get a subtle note of each of those. So once I've mixed that up, I'm going to go back over to the grill and check on my items. Still working on those. I'm getting a little bit of char on the outside here and a little bit of wilt on these guys, which is exactly what I'm looking for. Still haven't gotten much color on the croutons, but they are drying out, which is fine. Don't need any color on that necessarily. I've got enough flavor development in the other components. So now I'm going to take this large mixing bowl and I'm going to put in some of the Caesar dressing. I'm just going to kind of splash it around the inside of the bowl here. Because I have those large pieces, I'm just going to kind of drag those pieces through the dressing here to get a nice even coating of dressing on those. And I'm going to put a couple of drops of olive oil in here just to keep things moving around, to moisten it up a little bit so that all those flavors come together. So I'm going to grab my lettuce, just drop that in the bowl. Check my lemons one more time. So you can hear that it's dried out nicely, so it's going to have a nice crunch to it. It's also going to be picking up the flavor from that charcoal, so that nice smoky wood flavor. So I'm going to take my little gems, and like I said, I'm just going to kind of move them around in this dressing to coat them nicely. That olive oil sort of mixing in with the dressing, making it a little bit more liquid. See, with a Caesar, I really don't like an underdressed Caesar. I'm not promoting or a proponent of overdressed salads, but underdressed Caesar. If I'm going to go either way on a Caesar, I might overdress slightly versus underdressing. Now I'm going to take these halves, place them on my plate. We'll go back to the grill. Our croutons. Croutons are going to add a nice little crunch to the Caesar, so we sort of wilted that lettuce a little bit, which diminishes a little bit from the texture on that end. So this croutons will bring back some of that texture in the form of the crunchy bread. So we like to have varied textures in our plates. And then I have, again, Reggiano Parmesan, my favorite Parmesan cheese. So I'm just going to do some shaved slices. And again, placing those somewhat precisely. And then finally, I'll just put a few drops of our really excellent fruity olive oil on the plate, just to sort of round out the plate and give it a little bit more character. And here we have our grilled little gem lettuces with charred bread and Reggiano Parmesan. For our next lesson, we're going to look at taking fruit to the grill. So I have here a Bartlett pear. Bartlett pears are fairly firm flesh fruit, which is going to lend itself nicely to the heat on the grill there. So I'm going to first just split this right in half, and then I'm going to utilize the flat part of the pear down on the board. And I'm going to cut these again in half so I have quarters. And then I'm just going to V out the seed section, also making a little flat spot where these will go on the grill and hold their positions nicely. That flat spot's going to enable me to get some nice grill marks, nice caramelization and Maillard reaction that we look for. Discard of this. So first thing I'm going to do, again, common theme here, utilizing some oil. Oil's going to do two things. It's going to keep things from sticking to the grill. It's also going to create that heat transfer more effectively. So getting the heat from those coals into the flesh of the pear so it starts to tenderize. The other thing I'm going to do is use a little bit of salt. Salt really acts well to help enhance the natural sugar in food. So just a little sprinkle of salt on the face of these pears is going to give me a little bit of a flavor boost on the sweet side. Next, I'm going to look for that hot spot on my grill, which appears to be about right here. So you hear that nice sizzle there. So I'm going to keep these in a nice little sequential row. And these are going to take about 7 or 8 minutes to cook. And while these are cooking, we're going to look at the rest of our ingredients for our salad. So I have here some greens, two different types of bitter greens here. I have frisee and radicchio. The frisee, we take the whole heads and we shave off the outer leaves and then cut the hearts up. And then the radicchio, we use a cut called chiffonade. So we take the head, cut it into quarters, and just do really thinly leafy slices of the radicchio. And then the two sort of mimic the same shape as one another. Next, I want to show you a little trick with walnuts. Cutting walnuts on a cutting board can be really problematic because they'll tend to fly all over the place. So what I'm going to do is just lay a few of these walnuts down. These have already been toasted in the oven. I'm going to use a clean kitchen towel, and I'm just going to lay that over the top. And then with a rolling pin, just a couple of rolls in different directions. We'll break up those walnuts into really nice, tight, little uniform pieces that I can utilize for my salad preparation. So I'm going to put those back into the bowl. Next, we're going to look at the dressing here. So I've got some a simple vinaigrette here. So a simple vinaigrette is going to be 1 part of acid to 3 parts of oil. So I've got some walnut oil, some olive oil, and some white wine vinegar, a little bit of agave nectar. We want a sweet component to this. When you have bitter greens, it's difficult to season properly. The bitterness really gets enhanced by certain sweet elements. So a combination of salt, sugar, and acid is going to tame these bitter greens here. So I'm just going to mix this vinaigrette up. I've got some fresh tarragon in here as well. Just drizzle a little bit of that into the salad mix. Next, I'm going to take a little salt and pepper. We always want to add salt and pepper to our greens. Again, trying to get that delicate balance of sweet, salty, and acid in there. Some chopped chives. So I'm going to take some chives and cut those up. I'm going to cut them into little bâtonnet shape. So I'm going to slice the end of these off so they're all uniform. And I've cut those at about a 30-degree angle. And then I'm just going to cut little mini batons about 1/4 of an inch long. And those are going to look really nice in our salad. Now let's go check on our pears. Now you can see these are cooked nicely now. The color's changed on the outside. Got nice caramelization. I'm just going to turn these over. And we'll go back to toss the salad. And we're ready to plate. So I'm going to quickly toss the salad, just enough dressing in here to dampen up the greens. We don't want them to be wet and soggy. So really seasoning quantity in addition to those ingredients is important. And when I plate a salad, people have a tendency to want to manhandle the greens. I hold these really delicately and I just let them fall out of my hand. And by doing that, I get nice height on them. They stack up really nicely on the plate like that. If I squeeze too hard, it's like a clock spring. They just bounce right back. And I'm going to garnish with some point raised blue cheese. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick my knife down here next to the coals for about 5 seconds. And I'm going to warm up the tip of the knife just so that I can slice through that crumbly cheese without it breaking apart on me. It's a little hot knife technique. And then I can just slide that piece of blue cheese right onto the salad in its entirety. We'll come back with our pears. and probably go all around the corners of the platter. And then we'll just garnish with some of our toasted walnuts. And there we have our grilled Bartlett pear with bitter greens, blue cheese, and toasted walnuts. For our last recipe in this segment, we're going to look at Fatima's tiered potato salad. Although Fatima has some biblical references, in this case it's really just a name. We could call this my Aunt Sally's tiered potato salad if my Aunt Sally was from Northern Africa. So I have an array of vegetables that I already have on the grill over here. We're going to go take a look at those, turn those, and brush them with a little additional olive oil, which they're marinated in. So I have some beautiful tomatoes, some beets. We just get some grill marks on the beets here. It's nice caramelization. Pre-cooked potatoes, we're just crisping up those a little bit on the outside. Some zucchini, some white onion, and some rings of bell pepper. So the fun is in the assembly here. We're going to artfully arrange these in a bit onto the plate, but I just want to give them a little love with some olive oil here while they finish cooking on that last side. So they're almost ready. While these are finishing up, we're going to go back over here and we're going to talk about the dressing. So I have some fresh cilantro and parsley that I picked off the stems here. Some beautiful Easter egg radishes. Easter egg radishes, obviously because of the color, they come in various colors like colored Easter eggs. And then I have some whole cooked eggs. Our dressing today, we're looking at a charmoula. So charmoula is a common vinaigrette in Northern Africa. So we're going to start off with a substantial amount of extra virgin olive oil in here, as is the case in a lot of African and Middle Eastern dishes. And then we're going to go back and revisit my garlic trick from earlier. So taking that clove of garlic, utilizing the back edge of my knife to crush that. And then in doing that, just really minimizing the time it takes to get this processed all the way back into a fine chop. And then again, moving the larger pieces that kind of ride up the edge of my knife back into the mix. So garlic, olive oil. And then we have some chopped up version of the herbs that we have here. So lots of parsley, lots of cilantro go into the mix here. And then we have a little bit of paprika, some sweet paprika in this case, actually a fair amount. And then we're going to use just a little bit of cumin, toasted cumin. And then for the acid, we're going to use lemon juice. So in Northern Africa, predominantly Muslim communities there, so alcohol's not a prevalent thing. Vinegar you don't find as an acidification agent in their cuisine. You find lots of lemon juice and citrus. So I'm just going to stir this up. Really, really flavorful, fragrant olive oil, the paprika, that little bit of toasted cumin, and then big flavors in the herbs and the garlic in that as well. So I've got a little landing spot here on this plate where I'm going to take my vegetables. I'm going to be a little gentle with these tomatoes. Put those down. The rest of the stuff I don't have to be as gentle with. So the potatoes, nice markings there. Beets, golden beets, beautiful color. And our zucchini. And then our onions and our peppers. So now the fun comes. We're going to build this salad on the plate over here. So a tiered salad, basically we're looking at sort of layering this. I don't want to stack it up and make it look too contrived. I want it to seem a little bit natural and somewhat rustic. So I'm going to start with my potato pieces. And I'm going to place those just at the back of the plate here. And then I'm going to come in with my tomato slices next. soft, almost become part of the dressing when they break down a little bit like this. Then I'll bring in the beets, those, and finally my zucchini slices. I'm trying to create a little flow here. And then for our garnishes, we're going to utilize the egg component here and the radishes. So the egg, I have this interesting little contraption here that cuts eggs either into slices if I use this plate or wedges if I use this one. So I'm going for wedges here. I'm just going to angle that back a little bit. And that enables me to take these nice slices with the yolk intact, sort of arrange those, again, trying to make them look random, so placing them quite precisely. Oops, yolk down. And then we're going to come back and garnish with our dressing. And we'll put the radishes on last. We don't want to bury the beautiful color of those radishes. So, charmoula, just randomly kind of drizzling it around, making sure we get some onto the vegetables, and also filling the dead space on the plate so we have a nice balanced plate of food here in terms of the visual. And then we'll come back with our radish component. And finally, we're going to take our last components here in the form of these rings, onions and the peppers, and we're going to utilize the different shapes and sizes to create a sort of dramatic effect here on the top. So just mixing in the colors and adding obviously additional flavor components to that. And so now we have our Fatima's tiered potato salad with Moroccan charmoula.